I'm Griff Robodanger, and for this video, I've decided to torture myself by going out of my way to watch the 3 worst reviewed, worst rated horror movies released in 2022. According to IMDB, 1,605 horror movies were released in 2022. Just for a little bit of context, I decided to order these films based on their IMDb ratings from worst to best, and the Netflix Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie was only considered the 305th worst horror movie of 2022, which means that in 2022 there were over 300 horror movies released deemed worse than that movie. So I wanted to check out the bottom of the barrel, the lowest of the low, to find out, are they really that bad? Let's find out! First up, I wanted to check out the movie generally considered the worst horror movie of 2022. A movie with an astounding 0% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and an 8% audience score. Jeepers Creepers Reborn. With a 2.5 out of 10 rating on IMDb and overwhelmingly negative reviews on Google, Jeepers Creepers Reborn is one of the most universally hated horror movies of 2022. But is it really that bad? It's not great. The story revolves around a couple traveling to Louisiana for the Horror Hound Festival, which is supposed to be this big outdoor festival for horror fans. It just so happens this event is happening at the same place and time where the legendary Creeper is about to awaken from his 23-year slumber to go on a 23-day people-eating binge. The boyfriend, Chase, is depicted as a huge horror film fan who is really stoked about this Horror Hound Festival.
How you know that's where we're going?
Really?
But his girlfriend Lane is clearly just going along to humor him.
You bring me to the most charming places. Remind me why we're here again?
The film makes it pretty clear that she isn't interested in any of that crap.
Look at all this cool stuff.
I don't get it.
I just gotta say, Chase may be one of the most unintentionally unlikable characters I've seen in a long time. In one scene, he surprises Lane with a bunch of costumes and makes this big deal about how he wants them to cosplay together.
Are you serious? What are those?
We're gonna cosplay. You and me.
And she's clearly not into it.
I'm not putting on any of them.
What?
But then he guilt trips her about it.
It was a stupid idea anyway, so.
So she finally relents and tries on all the costumes for him. And at the end of all this, she asks,
Now that I've satisfied your fanboy fantasies, what are you gonna wear?
This.
A t-shirt?
"You son of a bitch." But it doesn't end there. This whole trip is them basically doing all the stuff Chase wants to do, while Lane just sort of begrudgingly goes along with all of it,
Can't believe I let you drag me to this nerd fest.
even though she's clearly miserable the entire time.
Wow, these people are really up.
Along the way, we learn that Lane is secretly pregnant, although Chase doesn't know it yet. Meanwhile, Chase is secretly planning on proposing to Lane later that night,
I'm gonna ask her tonight. Got the ring.
because nothing screams romance like proposing to your girlfriend at the thing you enjoy, but she barely tolerates. Before they go to the festival, they take a detour at this voodoo shop, filled with authentic voodoo items like bear holding Mardi Gras beads. So the shop is run by this voodoo lady whose outfit just screams librarian who threw a last-minute costume together for a Harry Potter book night. It turns out Voodoo Lady is secretly a member of a cult that worships the Creeper. When she touches Lane, she gets a vision that Lane is pregnant. So Voodoo Lady instantly contacts her fellow cultists to tell them the good news.
We have a tree bearing fruit.
You see, the cult needs to offer a pregnant woman as a sacrifice to the Creeper for some reason.
He will be most pleased.
So it's amazingly lucky for them that Lane came to town, because apparently there are no pregnant women in rural Louisiana. They finally get to the Horror Hound Festival, which the movie plays up as this massive event.
I had no idea so many people attended these things.
This is the Coachella of cosplay.
Except Coachella is insane, and this festival is, you know. There's no line to get tickets. There's no line for the food vendors. There's no lines for alcohol. In the tents where the big events are happening, there are like 30 people total. And most of the attendees at this Coachella for cosplay are just wearing Party City Halloween costumes like... It's also odd that the music is deafening inside these tents, but just outside the tents, you can't hear any music.
You alright?
Of course, this doesn't stop these background extras from dancing their asses off to complete silence.
You alright?
But what everyone at this massive Horror Hound festival doesn't realize is that the Creeper has crashed the party and he's set his sights on Lane. Even though the Horror Hound festival looks a bit underwhelming, there's enough going on that, in theory, this could be a fun setting to watch the Creeper rampage through, right? You could have a humorous meta scene where the Creeper eats these low-rent Pennywises, or kills this Michael Myers guy, or this Jason, or any of these other costumed fans. There are tons of fun things the filmmakers could have done with the Creeper in the setting they spent so much time setting up. So here's what they did instead. Remember how I mentioned that cult that worships the Creeper? Well, they've concocted this stupidly intricate plan that goes like this. So the Horror Hound Festival has a big drawing for a grand prize, which is a trip to a nearby Creeper escape room.
An escape room for two, Creeper themed.
The catch is the escape room is actually just a trap. The idea is they want to bring Lane to this creepy mansion as a sacrifice to the Creeper. Okay, so listen. The sequence of events where this plays out is filled with so much stupidity, I can't even take it. So for starters, the voodoo lady sneaks backstage to where the tickets are being kept and dumps out all the tickets and replaces them with rigged tickets. But there's only like a dozen tickets in the container total for a grand prize at what is supposed to be this massive event. They hold the drawing.
Draw the winner, Jackson's very own Lady Manila.
And the voodoo lady is the one picking the winning ticket anyway. So why did they even bother to swap out all those tickets? So Lane's ticket obviously wins.
Oh my god, that's me.
But I need to point out that this whole plotline didn't even make any sense because the Creeper was already at the festival and had already spotted Lane. So Chase and Lane and this YouTube film crew are driven out to this mansion where the rest of the movie takes place. Chase flirts with the YouTube host right in front of Lane.
I wonder if I can be buried here.
Be careful what you wish for.
Shut up.
You're jealous.
I'm not jealous.
You're jealous.
Then decides moments later to finally propose to her in this dirty graveyard.
Lane?
Oh yeah, she's gonna love that. But the Creeper flies in and swoops up Lane. Everyone ends up in this supposed mansion, which looks more like a local Halloween haunt attraction. The Creeper chases everyone around and kills people, but I just stopped caring at this point. Nothing really works, partially because the movie looks so low rent. The Creeper as he was seen in the earlier Jeepers Creepers films is actually one of my favorite creature designs from that era, but this new version, more like Jeepers cheaper, am I right? I mean seriously, the sets look phony, key scenes are filled with terrible digital effects shots, but most importantly, it's not scary and it's not fun, it's just... But is Jeepers Creepers Reborn truly the worst horror movie of 2022? When I went on IMDB and sorted all those horror movies, Jeepers Creepers Reborn was only the 26th lowest rated horror movie of the year, and I wanted to see the worst. Unfortunately, the worst rated horror film was an Indonesian film I couldn't find much about. Plus, in this context, I didn't think it was fair to rag on a movie in a language I didn't understand. But luckily, the second and third worst rated movies are both easily available, and in English. The worst rated English language horror film of 2022 was something called Tooth Fairy Drill to Kill, with a 1.8 out of 10 rating. Although when you click on its individual IMDB page, the title changes to Tooth Fairy 5, and during the movie it's called Tooth Fairy 5 Premolars. But whatever it's called, it seems this is the 5th movie in a franchise I've never heard of until making this video. The movie starts with this character named Sammy, who is apparently a survivor of the previous Tooth Fairy film. Sammy is a school teacher, and she's clearly a terrible teacher, because we see her grading a student's paper, "The fish is sweet," "I live in an apple," "You adorable little dum-dum." As she's leaving work, we get our first glimpse at the Tooth Fairy. who is stalking her inside the school. From what I could gather, the Tooth Fairy is an escaped mental patient who wanders around in broad daylight wearing a creepy mask. She's obsessed with removing people's teeth on account of some childhood trauma she suffered. So Sammy's at home nursing a toothache. She starts watching these insane YouTube videos about how to extract your own teeth.
I'm going to show you how to safely remove teeth with my dentistry training.
Even though she's already mentioned in this movie that she has a dental appointment the next day.
Getting this tooth sorted. Got an appointment early morning.
But thankfully she won't have to wait too long to get that tooth out, because the Tooth Fairy has showed up at her house.
It seems as if you're not going to let me in.
I'm calling the police right now!
So apparently the Tooth Fairy's deal is that she likes to say creepy stuff to her victims.
You're the teacher that works at the school.
You can't have that. It's not possible.
She sounds like a British grandmother, except it's difficult to make out what she's saying half the time because her voice is muffled by this mask she's wearing. The Tooth Fairy manages to get inside Sammy's house and knocks Sammy out with a hammer. And somehow, Sammy wakes up perfectly fine despite sustaining blunt force trauma. Then the Tooth Fairy uses this hammer to, I guess, chisel out Sammy's teeth with this stick, which apparently isn't painful at all. Because Sammy just cries a little, but never, screams in agony. So the Tooth Fairy kills Sammy 20 minutes into this 84-minute movie, so our new lead character becomes Sammy's sister, Meg.
We found your sister in the living room. It appears that she's been murdered.
Oh my god!
Conveniently, Meg is also a teacher at the same school where Sammy worked. Meg returns to work after a grieving period. But she picked a bad day to return because the Tooth Fairy is already inside the school. This other teacher sees the Tooth Fairy and confuses her for a student.
Excuse me? Back to class now, please.
Back to class? What class? All the students are gone! So the Tooth Fairy attacks the teacher with this plastic knife.
No, please, no.
Meanwhile, it also happens to be Meg's birthday, so the other teachers decide to throw her a birthday party in the school after hours. Which means we're treated to an epic party montage sequence, where teachers get drunk in a primary school, and eat snacks, and whatever the hell this lady is doing. Seriously, what the hell is she doing? There's dancing, laughing, they play with balloons, they serve each other cake, the shit gets wild. So even though the Tooth Fairy has already killed someone in the school a few scenes earlier, she's somehow locked out of the school now.
I've come to collect.
Huh?
And has to trick the world's dumbest security guard to get back in.
My son.
Oh, you've come to collect your son.
Like, come on, dude. Even with this thing blocking her mouth, you have to realize that isn't a normal human face.
What's his name? I'll go look it up.
Sam. Young.
Oh, your son's name is... Is that a Welsh name, or...
Nope. He's not on here.
So the Tooth Fairy gets back into the school, and that's when things get nuts. Like this chase scene, where the Tooth Fairy patiently waits for her victim to get through the doorway, instead of just stabbing her. Or this scene where the Tooth Fairy plays with a faucet.
Honestly, what are you playing at?
The funniest sequence in this movie is when Meg is trying to escape from the Tooth Fairy. She runs into this classroom and tries to blockade a door with preschool furniture and a tricycle. Then, while the Tooth Fairy stares into the room through this window, Meg decides to hide in this children's puppet theater thing. Somehow this tactic actually works, as the Tooth Fairy looks around for a full 2 minutes of the movie without locating Meg.
All you do is hide.
But you want to know what the worst part about Tooth Fairy Drill to Kill is? There's not a single f***ing drill in the whole movie. So that leaves us with the next worst film, according to IMDB users. Sharkula! Sharkula actually has a slightly higher IMDB score than Tooth Fairy Drill to Kill, but after watching the movie, I'm not sure how. Sharkula comes from director Mark Polonia, who also directed Camp Murder, which I covered in a previous video. It also features several of the same cast members from Camp Murder, so if you're familiar with that movie, strap in. Sharkula opens with a flashback sequence of Dracula being chased by villagers. Obviously, with Dracula being a vampire, these scenes are supposed to take place at night, but they just shot them in broad daylight and added a black gradient to the top of the frame. The villagers injure Dracula with some high-tech CGI effects.
Die, Dracula!
Which causes Dracula to fall into the ocean, where he's attacked by a shark.
Did we know there were forces working beyond our...
The film cuts to the present day, in this small American coastal town, where these two guys have traveled for a job.
Please accept this letter as acceptance for summer employment at the Arkham Dock and Marina.
Spoiler, their boss is Dracula, who we learn did not transform into Sharkula after the shark attack. Instead, Dracula is still Dracula, but after the shark bite, Sharkula is now Dracula's master, and Dracula has to offer female sacrifices at the beach to appease Sharkula, or else something happens? I don't really know.
Hear me, master of the Red Seas. Come forth and receive your offering.
So part of these guys' Dracula job involves them staying at a place called the Bucket O' Chum, which from a distance looks like a motel.
Look, there's the Bucket of Chum. We should go.
And up close appears to be a train depot?
Here we are. This.
But inside, it's clearly just someone's house.
This town is abandoned.
They literally just stuck a table in a doorway to represent the hotel's front desk. At the hotel, they're greeted by Dracula's henchman, Renfield.
The bar is open until 7:30 p.m., and I'm not joking.
So according to this film's lore, Dracula has taken over this coastal shipping town. He has the entire town under his thrall, and he's running this huge shipping operation.
When I started my shipping empire.
Yet the casket where he sleeps is just sitting in the basement of this house, next to Rubbermaid totes and all this modern junk. The basement is also where they tie up the women they kidnapped to sacrifice to Sharkula. Now you'd think these women would be bound by chains or ropes maybe, but instead they're tied up by... Honestly, I've watched this part several times, and I have no idea what she's tied up with. I mean, they kind of look like foam dog turds. Renfield threatens this woman, Mina, who is apparently one of Dracula's intended brides.
Be careful what you think and say. His rats have ears.
You're the only rat in Arkham.
There's a point in this scene where they randomly mute some of her dialogue.
If you disobey it one more time, you'll end up in the sacrifice.
I didn't mean anything by the letter.
It's as if the actress said the wrong thing, but instead of just editing that part out completely, they only cut out the audio. This drunk guy wanders out into the pier and gets Sharkula'd. And then we meet this couple whose car breaks down.
You have to fix it.
Seemingly in someone's backyard. The boyfriend wanders off to the beach to look for help.
My car broke down on the road and I need some help.
Even though we can clearly see there were houses in the background where their car was. So the dude gets Sharkula'd.
The hell is that?
While his girlfriend gets captured by Dracula. One of the new employees, John, sees Sharkula in the water, but doesn't get Sharkula'd for some reason.
What the hell?
But he starts getting nosy.
I'm tired of being stuck in here all night.
Night? Really? He goes to snoop around and finds Dracula and Renfield having an argument.
No, master, please!
Then he sees that Dracula doesn't have a reflection in his mirror.
'Cause she's jealous of my service to you.
Why should she be jealous of a little grub like you?
Even though there isn't even a mirror on the wall where this interaction is happening, he manages to hide behind these stair banisters. Okay, seriously? Did none of these filmmakers understand how hiding works?
Yes!
Okay, that seems unnecessary. Despite the fact John just saw a real-life vampire, he decides to keep snooping. He sneaks downstairs where he finds the woman from before.
Please untie me.
I'll try, but how did this happen?
I don't know. I woke up like this.
Except...
I'm thirsty for your blood.
Oh my god, I'm like a vampire or whatever. Just like, give me your blood already.
You're whacked out, sister. I'm out of here.
His buddy Arthur goes looking for John the next day.
John's dead, isn't he?
Yes, he was food for the beast.
And then tries to help Mina escape.
We need to go now under the cover of darkness.
Anywhere I went, he would follow.
She's right!
But Dracula magically appears to fill in the backstory.
How are you tied to the shark? I thought you were the Lord of the Dead.
Would you like me to share the story with you?
Why not? We're not going anywhere.
We're treated to a flashback scene.
Ah, yes. The angry mob.
Which is literally the opening scene replayed exactly the same, except with Dracula providing commentary. Dracula wants to use Arthur and Mina to help him kill Sharkula, so he can be free of Sharkula's curse.
It will work out. Trust me.
They perform this ceremony, which amazingly seems to be actually shot at night.
Come forth and receive your offering.
Did Dracula just drool during his line delivery?
And breathe.
So Sharkula is summoned.
No!
No! Back off! No! No! And finally, Dracula gets to talk shit to his nemesis.
Did you think I would serve you for all eternity?
Yeah, take that, motherfucker.
It is you who should have served me! Ah!
But Dracula gets Sharkula'd, and somehow Sharkula transfers his powers to Dracula, or something? All I know is Dracula has gills now.
Then die!
Arthur and Mina go to Dracula's basement, where they find Rocker Vamp Girl.
Oh, there's someone chained up over there.
Help me, please.
Okay, because you said please.
Dracula did this.
Why are you covered in blood? It's Renfield's blood, isn't it?
No, it isn't. I swear.
May you find peace!
So of all the possible ways they could have ended this movie, they go with this.
Dracula!
Yeah, because that's how I want a movie called Sharkula to end, with a boring-ass Dracula being killed by a boring-ass crucifix. This movie is a bizarre mess of nonsense. The majority of the movie appears to be shot on a cheap digital camcorder, but then they randomly splice in slick stock footage that doesn't match the rest of the film at all. It's sort of jarring to go from these professional-looking shots to special effects that look like something out of a 1993 Sega Genesis game. I just can't get over the fact that this is a real movie made by adults and not something a bunch of 12-year-old kids made and posted on YouTube. I mean, you can actually buy this movie on DVD at Walmart. So are these the worst horror movies of 2022? Let me know what horror movie you thought was the worst of 2022 down in the comments. Check out this other stuff and be sure to subscribe so you can see more. And until next time, later, Danger Seekers.